It was really like shocking for me because while there is a country in the same planet, their problem is not having enough food. Literally, my people are dying, but people here, their problem is having too much food. In North Korea, like you cannot even hold like your boyfriend's hand. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today in this video, I'm going to talk about top 5 things that I experienced in America that shocked me the most. When I came to America and people were constantly asking me, oh, what were the things you had a culture shock with? And always was like, where do you want me to begin? It's just so many. So today I'm going to just only include 5. So number 1, Americans were on calories. So I never knew what diet was in North Korea. There was never such a thing called a diet. It was always good thing to be a little bit chubby, and if you are chubby, it's like a status symbol. You are not starving. So when I was in North Korea, the most like desired man type was like someone with a big belly and bald. So that means like we think they are really well off, they are well fed, because most of men are really skinny. And when I came here, people like just telling me like, oh, do not eat like white bread, flour, do not eat high sugar. They told me like, oh, you need to like check the sugar level, and like, oh, you need to buy low fat. And I was so confused, like, what do you mean low fat? What do you mean like no sugar? What do you mean like no bread, no rice? And here people, having a war with like diet. And it was in the beginning, it was very confusing because they told me like obesity is a very big problem in America. It kills a lot of people. I didn't even know what obese was. And it was really like shocking for me because while there is a country in the same planet, their problem is not having enough food. Literally, my people are dying, but people here, their problem is having too much food. I was like, it's like, how do I reconcile these two realities? And they're both real problems, right? Having too much food, it does kill you. Having too little food, you can get killed. But how is this like acceptable? We are in the same planet somehow. If we give the food that we throw away here to North Koreans, no one has to die in North Korea. So that was really confusing. And not only that, when it comes to diet, Americans' obsessions with, allergies or their dietary restrictions, I was very confused. Like, whenever I invite to event or like friend's house, they say like, oh, let me your dietary restriction. And I was like, what is that? I never heard of such a thing. Like, what is it? It's like, oh, the things that you cannot eat or you don't want to eat. It's like, I eat everything. I eat like grasshoppers, I eat frogs, I eat everything. And I heard like here people practicing like veganism, vegetarianism, and like no dairy, like so many like, and no nuts. And I heard like there are so many children in America has allergies. So I have my son, and when I go to play dates, they say like, do not bring nuts because kids have allergies. Like, I never heard such a thing in North Korea. I never heard like such a thing called like food allergy. So maybe biology changed us here. I don't know what is different, but like when I was in North Korea, I never heard such a thing, and I don't think it killed anybody. So it was like a huge culture. There's like no judgment here, but it was just so different, and it just took some time for me to understand this different culture when it comes to diet. So second, exercise. Here's again, There's a war on exercise here. I see, like, whenever I go out street, I see so many people just running. And in this building, there's a gym, people just running there. And also, like, my friends, they love go hiking too. And I mean, I had to hike to survive in North Korea, hunting mushrooms, hunting plants, hunting anything to find to eat in North Korea. Like, hiking was for survivor. It was never for like a hobby. But here, people exercise and like work out and hike for hobby. And that was really confusing, and I don't really exercise here now because like I exercise too much. Like I did like for my lifetime. Maybe I don't need it now, but I think I should do it because you know I do like now eating too much and like not working out. But that was really like, you know, confusing for me to see. Oh, here, even though their life is so good, they don't need to find things to eat in the mountains, but you know, because of the abundance here, people had to exercise to stay healthy and have a healthy mind and healthy body too. So number 3 is a public display of affection, PDA. I went to like Las Vegas actually for a speech. It was for a work, not for a party. And I was like, oh my, where do I put my eyes? You know, in North Korea, like you cannot even hold like your boyfriend's hand. You can like never ever imagine seeing somebody of different gender or like lovers hugging or kissing. I mean, here, you know, like kissing is not even like, nobody like looking at them, and nobody, like everybody thinks it's such a normal thing. You just kiss them and hug them. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, where did I put my eyes? And now I really like, you know, I'm okay with it because it's like, you know, your expression of how you express yourself with the other person. But coming from North Korea, where that kind of affection was really criticized and looked down upon, it took some time for me to get used to, you know, seeing couples like hugging and kissing and holding hands and do sometimes more than that. You know, it was like, yeah, it took some time for me to get used to that. And number 4, this is like something that I really want to give like a lot of, you know, my like applause and like credibility to not only America but like South Korea and a lot of like developed countries respecting this disability. I mean, not only like developed countries, I think even the third world countries, they like so much, not unlike North Korea, respect disability and have a compassion for them. But in North Korea, the regime, the policy itself had like such a persecuting disability people. So for instance, if you like in the past in Pyongyang, like if you lose your arm or leg, so like if you have, you know, get into an accident, you could not be able to live in Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea. The country gonna like kick you out because they don't want when the foreigners to come and see unhealthy, maybe like not normal in their standard people. And even in the countryside, because government had that kind of policy, people like, you know, didn't really have a lot of compassion for them, and there was no such a facility for them to even go out, you know. So if you become disabled, you just stay at home and you don't do anything. So like when I went to South Korea or even America, I saw those like subways and see signs of like wheelchair at the airports. I didn't know what it was in the beginning, and asking them like, what is that for? And like they're like, oh, it's for disabled people. I was like, what? This is like paradise. I mean, this is the best place on earth. Like we respect weak, we respect people who doesn't have things that we have. And you know, I was so touched by that kind of compassion, you know, policy and the people and those facilities to help those people out. And that's like what I feel so sad about North Korea. You know, if you come born with like birth defects or become disabled, you know, you're like, life is almost done, there's no other second chance, and you know, you're being shamed for disability. So for instance, there were like people with dwarfism, like who doesn't grow like as much than normal adults. The regime just caught them and forcefully sent them to this little village where they cannot be mixed with normal population. And in the past, the regime would go make them like infertile to not being able to reproduce. So you know, the level of this kind of cruelty that affects North Korean people, it's like uncountable ways how the regime persecutes its own people. So lastly, it is freedom of movement. When I came to America, I went to Texas, a place called Tyler, Texas. And you know, that time I didn't really have money to visit like big cities like Washington DC or New York, other cities. And I didn't also think like any average person like me can be like going to those cities, because in North Korea, Pyongyang is such a holy place. You need like extreme process to verify and get a permit to visit, and not to even like mention living there. So second time when I came to America, it was for moving here, and that was New York City, like one of the best cities the biggest cities in the world. I couldn't believe like someone like me coming from North Korea, who doesn't have like good education, doesn't have money, doesn't have any connection, can actually just move to New York City. It was like the beyond my wildest dream. Like any government allows that. Like in North Korea, like people from Pyongyang looks down upon us, like, oh, you country person, like we are so much better than you. And you know, like in this country like USA, like anyone was equal. Like there was a literally absolute equal opportunity. Like you can choose if you want to live in LA, you can do that. If you want to live in Florida, you can do that. You literally decide your own destiny, you own yourself, you own your life. And it was just so overwhelming, and I was so grateful for the opportunity to be having anything that I want for my life. So I love sharing this my experience in America, and let me know next time what you want to hear. So thank you everyone, bye.